Good morning to everybody. Hello. We are here for a talk, quite unusual, and I'm very glad to welcome you online. Why unusual? Because we are both transmitting from Paris and Hong Kong with two speakers, one from one museum in Paris and one from Hong Kong Museum as well, around a topic which is quite unusual, designing jewels. So just for practical question, let me just precise that the chat box will close within a few minutes, just to allow you to have a better view on the slides, on the videos. And at the end of the talk, you can ask any question through the Q&A. We will keep 15 minutes around to answer to your question. And we have also a simultaneous translation in Chinese, Mandarin, Japanese. So let me introduce the talk of today, the purpose, which is drawing, designing jewels, here represented by two institutions, but also two exhibitions, one in Paris and one in Hong Kong. So let's have a look at these two institutions and our two speakers. Let me shortly present them to you. We are online with Florian Knothe, who is curator, director of the Hong Kong Museum and Art Gallery, and with Clara Roca by my side, who is curator in Le Petit Palais. So, Clara, Florian, could you tell me more about your institution? Let's begin with you, Clara.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much, Emmanuelle, for having me for this wonderful presentation. As Emmanuelle mentioned, I'm Clara Roca, and I worked at the Petit Palais as curator of the post 1800 works on paper, meaning prints, drawings, and photographs also. The Petit Palais is Paris City Fine Art Museum. It is located right at the front of the Grand Palais near the Champs-Élysées. And this institution hosts Paris City Fine Art collection from antiques to 18th century decorative arts, from Byzantine icons to Dutch Golden Age paintings, and with a very strong suit in 19th century paintings and sculptures. You can see here the building pictures on the right. It was created for the National Exhibition of 1900, and it initially held for this very instance an exhibition focused on French decorative arts from the antiquity to present times. And only 2 years later, in 1902, was it intended to become Paris City Fine Art Museum. And through many gifts, bequests, and acquisition, it became this free entrance museum we now know, and which you can, again, freely visit whenever you want.
And what about your institution, Florian, which is typically Anglo-Saxon to me because it's a university museum?
Yes, absolutely. So I've been here in Hong Kong for 12.5 years as the director of the University Museum. I'm also professor in museum studies, but I'm really here tonight, this afternoon, because I have the joy of curating this exhibition in collaboration with L'ÉCOLE. Our museum is the oldest continuously run museum in Hong Kong. It's just over 70 years old. We have a Chinese art collection, antiquities like bronzes and ceramics, but also modern and contemporary paintings. We work with artists in the community and see ourselves as a platform for art in Hong Kong. And we teach. We are really a teaching museum. And so temporary exhibitions like the one we'll discuss tonight a wonderful opportunity for us to speak about craftsmanship and savoir-faire. We do about 7 or 8 temporary exhibitions every year. Half of them are about Chinese art and about the other half is international. We often do European exhibitions, French exhibitions. So I'm particularly thrilled to be here with you and speak about a very special one and this wonderful coincidence and occasion that we have these very similar exhibitions in quite different institutions in 2 of the biggest art and fashion centers in the world.
So let's say a few words about this exhibition because it's quite unusual to have at the same time in Hong Kong and Paris a show on drawings, jewels drawings. It's quite recent, quite new as a topic, and this occasion was not made in purpose. We didn't commission any exhibition in Petit Palais for the occasion. So it's really a chance to have this discussion and to have these 2 different and complementary point of views on one topic, just to allow you to follow the flow of the talk. So after this short presentation, we will delve into the scenography, the exhibition themselves, and it will be the occasion to be for the one who are in Hong Kong a little bit in Paris and vice versa, for the one who are in Paris to have a look inside the Hong Kong exhibition. So it's the first time we are doing that, simultaneous diffusion, and also it's the occasion to have a short visit inside the exhibition. So could you tell me more a little bit about the way it was conceived and perhaps display, but videos will tell you more about that.
Maybe just to summarize the purpose of the Parisian exhibition, the Petit Palais holds a quite important jewelry design collection, and it is very unknown still to the audience, even to people who specialize in this field. So we really wanted to put some light on this specific collection and to tell the story of the creative process, and you'll learn more about that during the video. But just to give maybe a few useful information. So the exhibition is at the Petit Palais in Paris, and you can visit it until the 20th of July.
I think for you, Florian, you are preparing the launch. The opening is for tomorrow, isn't it?
Our exhibition just opened and it's up until October 5th in the University Museum at Hong Kong U. And our exhibition is developed in collaboration with L'ÉCOLE, the vast collection of over 6,000 drawings that is kept in Paris, and the opportunity to develop the exhibitions that were done with the collection in Paris and in Shanghai into a slightly larger and broader display. 200 years of jewelry drawings. And again, as Clara said, we will explain much of that in the video, but also really with the emphasis to talk about the transfer of knowledge, the development of the drawings themselves, the different stages, but also the way they were used to communicate with other craftsmen and also with clients, so that presentational quality of these really highly developed drawings is also very dear to us here.
I think that people don't clearly know all the functions and the diversity of the uses around drawing. So perhaps I think the best is to dig and to visit your shows before coming back for any interaction, dialogue, and also the Q&A at the end, if you wish. So let's have a visit. Let's move inside the two shows that you can visit in presence, of course, in Paris and Hong Kong, but it's a little just an open window on what you can see in both sides. Let's have a look at the videos, please.
The Petit Palais exhibition focuses on its huge collection of jewelry drawings, meaning that we curate more than 5,700 pieces. And what makes this ensemble very interesting to me is that it holds two complete collection of artists. The first one being Pierre-Georges de Rem, who was, among other things, chiseler for L'ÉCOLE, and the second one being Charles Jacot, who worked for decades for the Maison Cartier. And what makes these two ensembles very interesting is that these very meticulous artists kept hold of everything they produced, from their very first studies and sketches to the final beautiful, colorful gouache. And so to better showcase the specificity of the collection, the angle we chose to create this exhibition is the creative process idea. And so from the first section to the last section, we try to explore the different steps of this process. We begin with the inspiration sources. And what is great is that we were able to create a sort of game, meaning we start with, for example, a ceramic piece or a book, an ornament book, or something very different, and we can trace from this inspiration source the steps of the draftsmen who were looking at this first motif and then re-implanted it in their production. So that's for the inspiration sources. Then we focus on the jewelry drawing itself, and we ask the question of the materials, the question of the identity of the designer, also the identity of the people he worked for or worked with. And we also try to simply showcase the beautiful gouache collection of the Petit Palais. The third section asks the question of how we move from 2D to 3D, and basically how from one drawing, which circulates in the workshops, the jewelry comes to be, thanks to the savoir-faire of many different people. And the last section, and to me it was important that we ended not with the jewelry, but with the drawing, asks the question of the drawing's longevity and also the purposes it has once the jewelry is created, once the piece is finished, what happens to the drawing and what are his new roles. And so that's the last section of the show, and you see that we try step by step to cover the whole creative process of these draftsmen. The scenography of the exhibition truly helps to create a more immersive atmosphere, and you will see that throughout the show there are these big windows emulating the workshop windows of 19th, 20th century Paris. And the scenographer also tried to create special showcases to accompany the purpose of each section. For instance, in the first section, you see that we have this big showcase, this big display, which is a reminder, which reminds us of the big tables of the libraries the draftsmen were able to go to study, to accumulate some inspiration sources. The second section of this exhibition has these slightly tilted desks or showcases, and these are trying to remind you of, for example, architects' desks. So a table where you create rather than study. And then you have the third section of the exhibition, which has these very special undulating showcases, and these should remind you of the workshops of the jewelers. And the only thing that is missing truly is the leather piece of fabric that would help you collect the metal scraps. So you can see that we are trying to guide the visitor throughout the show with these special showcases so that the 350 pieces we are exhibiting are better understood.
To introduce the exhibition Designing Jewels, we first look at the different characteristics of the drawings, the different stages that the many examples in the exhibition represent. We also think about the value and the complexity of the drawings by comparison to other artist drawings. So here we have the different stages from sketch to fully executed drawing that shows the different materials proposed for the jewel, whether these are pearls or stones, different metals, enameling. The different techniques are really beautifully exemplified in the drawings. Our exhibition includes this large wall with artist materials and tools. Visitors to the exhibition can try their own hand by working with one of the designers in the gallery. We hope that this immersive experience will exemplify the value of the historic drawings by showing individuals how difficult it is to put one's ideas on paper, to draw a design, and to use gouache. This set of drawings is fully executed and rendered with beautiful detail. They can be attributed to a jeweler house, to a maison, to Brediato, rather than to an individual craftsman. And they indicate the might of the jeweler. The style, the execution, even the detail can be very much matched to drawings presented and published by the jeweler rather than by an individual craftsman. It indicates the way that the drawings were commissioned and presented to individual clients and used in the workshop. We see how important at this time the signature of the jeweler becomes. Within the large group of drawings, we then go on to recognize individual talent. We have drawings by Alexandre Brediat of Brediat and Artaud that exemplify his own style. And we have Fernand Paillet, who has this very distinct style. He's looking at antiquity. He's rendering very, very fine depictions of personnel, of people that relate to antiquity, and they are rendered in small little scenes, small enough to be there to decorate a bracelet or a watch cover. Lastly, we also have René Lalique, who has this very personal style, even uses paper that is specifically made for his drawings. And although none of these drawings are signed, we have the inscriptions, we have the directions that Lalique gives to the craftsman that we can identify and see his hand, see his signature included in these drawings.
Another favorite of jewelry designers is colored paper, and you can see here how it brings out the white of the diamonds and the pearls in high jewelry pieces. And what is interesting to me with these two drawings is that you can compare between one drawing which was never exhibited before and a drawing which has already been lended quite a few times. And if you have a close look at it, you can see that the blue paper, the original blue paper, has begun to fade in this drawing because it was exhibited more and thus more prone to whitening or discoloring due to light exposure. And this explains why in drawing or graphic art exhibition the lights are quite low, and why these exhibitions never last long, because we have to bring back these pieces into storage rooms to better curate them for future generations. Another one of the main alterations, apart from the alteration of paper, that we can witness in such gouache is the darkening of the white lead that you can find in white gouache, and it creates these either grayish, blackish or orangish, brownish colors. And in some instances you have drawings which are, for example, a diamond necklace, and this diamond necklace is solely white, and it has completely darkened, and you end up with a dark drawing of a piece which is supposed to be completely white. So this kind of alteration greatly impacts the way we look and understand these drawings. So of course the drawing has to speak to the people who work in the workshops and will be able to create the piece, and it is used as a reference for the execution of the piece. But before that, it also is a very precious tool to speak with the clients. And with this specific drawing, you can see how such a piece of paper can become a tool to make people dream and also to make them able to take the decision to create the jewelry. And if you have a very close look at it, you will see that there is a tiny slit made here, and you have this other piece of paper here which is protruding, and it allows you to put the drawing around your wrist and to try on the future bracelet. So it really is paper jewelry, so to say, and this is used by the clients to decide if it is big enough, small enough, if there is some change that must be done to the drawing, to the design, before the jewelry is created.
With this set of drawings, we return to Bredilla. They are brilliantly executed with very, very fine detail, and they give us the reason to think about the way that these drawings were used. These are most probably done as presentational drawings to show different clients, and they show different versions of a pendant or other pieces of jewelry that clients could order, or elements from individual drawings that they could combine to help create their own jewel. In the exhibition, we combined some of the drawings with actual jewels. These are pieces by René Lalique. He became hugely famous at around 1900, the time of the Paris World Fair, and was then sought after as a jeweler and a glassmaker. Many of his pieces are dramatic headpieces, really theatrical and large. Many use very elegant but also simple materials. The dramatic effect and the quality of the design and the novelty of the design was really what made Lalique's work.
So the drawing is this dialogue tool which goes from the draftsman, from the designer to the client, but also in some other instances from the draftsman to the artistic direction of a maison. And here you can see that Charles Jacot drew this case profile, this case silhouette, and he divided it in 4 parts to offer 4 different solutions to Louis Cartier, who worked, among many other things, as artistic director of the Maison Cartier. And you can spot that the option studied in the lower left angle was in fact selected, but covers the entirety of the case in this final production. This comb designed by Lalique is another good example of how light affects the paper. And if you have a good look at it, you may see that the middle of the sheet appears way darker than the margins. And that is because these margins were previously protected by a mount. And thus, when the drawing was exhibited, only the middle of the paper was altered and darkened due to light exposure. And the sheet grew old in a way, in different ways. So that's another good example. And another reason why we should be very cautious when we exhibit it, but also when we manipulate such jewelry drawings, is that some draftsmen used gouache in a very specific way, meaning that they accumulated a heavy quantity of gouache on their pencil and created these kind of droplets with almost a relief. And that was a good way to convey the volume of the stones, for example, of diamonds. And in this necklace pendant by Lalique, there should have been heavy drops of white gouache on these small shapes on the necklace itself. But due to some friction or some abrasions, these droplets completely fell off the paper, and we are lacking today this information. So again, when we show these very specific works on paper, we have to be very cautious and take into account all of these various and many others factors of alteration, because showcasing a drawing is never something completely innocent, and we are creating irreversible alterations for future generations.
This display gives us reason to move from Lalique's Art Nouveau to Art Deco. The beautifully rendered gouache and graphite drawings here show little vanity cases that are influenced by Asian designs from China and Japan. And then, of course, the Art Deco style also had its own influence here in East Asia. Some of the fine renderings are here juxtaposed with actual vanity cases. So we try to exemplify how the drawings are done to exact size and how the detail from the gouache drawings is transferred into stone, enameling, and metal. The Art Deco style in La Cloche-Frère that did the beautiful vanity cases in the previous display ended in the interwar period. Here, this display, both the beautiful ballerina piece and the drawings that correspond to it, simplify the design, show the craftsmanship and the continuation after World War II. The designs are light-hearted. They signify the new freedom and the enthusiastic atmosphere after the war, the hope for a better time.
What is fascinating is that these draftsmen did not have that many tools at their disposal to create these drawings, and yet they are able to convey notions such as volume, as shadows, and to do this they try to really take the best of what they have, meaning basically a piece of paper, a graphite pencil, maybe pen and ink, and maybe a brush and some gouache, but that's it. And that explains to me why one of their favorite paper is translucent paper. Of course, you can use translucent paper as tracing paper, which is very useful when you have to do a technical drawing, but also, and that's truly fascinating, you can put something on the front and on the back of the same piece of paper, and it will affect the way you perceive the final design. And this you can see in the Maison Boucheron's drawings, because the draughtsmen used the back and the front of the drawing, and at the back they put this very vivid, strongly colored gouache, almost fluorescent in a way, and when you turn the sheet over, on the front of the sheet the color will appear muted and convey this idea of colored gold that should be used for these specific kind of projects. So when we manipulate these drawings, we have to be very cautious because they become brittle with age, but you can see that they added something at the back and at the front to convey this idea of layer and of volume. These drawings are used as documents of reference for the artisans who will create the jewelry itself. For example, the jeweler, of course, but also the enameler, the engraver, the polisher, and so on. This is why these drawings are on scale 1, so that you, the client, but also the artisans would be able to immediately understand the size of the jewel. And this isn't to say that some various changes cannot occur, because the drawing is not the absolute you have to aim for when creating a jewel, and some changes can be made in the workshop. For example, this piece is absolutely faithful to the drawing, but in this instance you may notice a few variations. So first of all, there is a change in the values, in the colors of the scheme, and you go from a dark peacock on a white background to a white peacock on a dark background, sorry. But also, you can immediately see that there is a problem with the scale. And if you look very closely at the drawing, you will see with these dots that Lalique asked for a reduction of the motif. And there could be two hypotheses behind that. One being he drew a very big drawing to better showcase the details which would be conveyed to the piece so that the artisans would have a better idea of what to do. And the other hypothesis would be that either he or the client ended up thinking this is too big of a piece and we have to scale it down to end up with something more wearable maybe.
The 200-year history examined in our exhibition takes us into the second part of the 20th century, when some of the large maisons like Cartier, Boucheron and Van Cleef & Arpels took residence at Place Vendôme. The pieces they create are large and confident, yet the drawings, as we can see in this example with the different variations of finger rings, represent exactly those techniques that we've studied in this display since the 1770s.
Again, when you look at presentations such as this one, where the drawings have been carefully placed with a game of echoes, of colors, of shapes, of masses, you can imagine how they would have been used as communication tools created to seduce the buyer. And so they were used as records of pieces that were once created, but also as records of what could be created, of what could be done, and were shown to the clients to suggest that if they brought, for example, some turquoises, they would be mounted this way or this way or this way, depending on what the client would want. What is interesting to me is these drawings are also some of the very last testimonies of the Fagnières Frères Maison. The Fagnières Frères Maison has completely disappeared, and apart from some very rare pieces on the market, apart from a few glass plates at the Musée d'Orsay, the Petit Palais drawings are one of the last way we can study and understand their production in the genre of jewelry. And so in the last section of the exhibition, we try to explore the historical and patrimonial value gained by the drawings once the pieces were created, and evoke the fact that they access to some new roles once these wonderful jewelries have been made, because they are imbued with new values after that.
Thank you for having followed us in these two short visits. I think it's an encouragement also to see more, to discover more. If you have the occasion to come to Paris or to come to Hong Kong Museum, it's just a little grasp, a way to discover more in those places. So just to have an idea of how important these shows are, let's remember you that it's quite rare and quite new to have these kind of exhibitions. The studies on jewelry design and drawing in themselves is not that old. If you have a look at these two exhibitions and the two catalogs we are presenting here, and also, if I can remember you who were pioneers in this field, Okay, we have the two catalogs, the one presented by Le Petit Palais here with the secrets of creation, to enter into the secrets of creation. And here we have our catalog we proposed during the first show we made in 2021, which is a milestone after all. If we can switch to a quick view of these shows. It's a recent field for research and for institution. For instance, we had before these two exhibitions, we also had these two milestones. If I can move to my slides, that's on. It's quite recent, as you can see here. The very first happened in 2018 in the north of France, in Roubaix. Why Roubaix? Because it's a place for decorative arts, one of the place where Art Nouveau was born, but also a place rich of decorative arts and Jewelry Maisons. So here you have Les Gouachers in this museum, La Piscine, which is an ancient swimming pool, reorganized and with an architecture to allow the exhibition of sculpture, painting, drawings, etc. It was about one collection, but one maison only, if I may say. But it's a milestone nevertheless. On the right, you have the poster of the exhibition organized by L'ÉCOLE in 2021. I don't know if you remember the show or the talk or both of them. It was the first time we had the occasion to show our collection of drawing, which was quite unique. And as you understand, it's not so easy to present some drawings because of the constraint of light. But it was also the occasion to move inside the artist studio. Just have a look at the display, the scenography we proposed in 2021. It was the occasion to evoke and to recreate the drawer studio. If you remember, you were entering inside a room which was conceived as a place where you were acting as a drawer. You had everything recreated. You could even look through the window to the roof of Paris, because these drawers, as a craftsman, are very often installed above the roof, just to have to get the natural light. So it was the occasion to have an idea of what's the studio of the artist. So I think it's also one of your choice, Clara and Florian, to evoke this condition of creation, isn't it?
It is. We, as I mentioned in the video, this is why we had these big glass panels to remind the visitors of the same windows which were so beautifully drawn in the 2021 scenography.
So I'd like also to highlight the fact that drawing is a kind of bridge in between varied fields. I would say the designer, the creator, the craftsman, but also the client. And this bridge is very well put in evidence in both exhibitions. It's also a bridge with young creators. Clara, could you tell us more about the partnership you established with these young creators?
Yes, for this exhibition we had a partnership with the Haute École de Joaillerie in Paris. It's a high jewelry school. and we had this wonderful opportunity to film in the classrooms to have a better look at what these young creators were doing, at their hand gestures, which are roughly the same as the one used and made by the draftsman a century earlier, maybe. And it was really great to put together a video which we are showcasing in the exhibition to also give some recognition for this craft, for this very specific art, which is still yet to be rediscovered, I feel like, and maybe ignite some new vocations among the younger audience of the exhibition to make them want to become jewelry designers or gouacheurs, gouacheuses maybe one day.
And I have to say that even here we are, even today we have computers, we have CAO. Drawing is still practiced by young designers, young people, and I think it's quite important to highlight the fact that the hand is still really important. If you want to try, I also can wish to remember you that we have some practical courses. You can try by your own to draw and put light and shadows, to put colors in stones, to discover the constraints, but also what's at stake in a design jewel. So perhaps if I may take my phone just to get your question, I guess you have some. Do you have some questions from the Q&A? Oh yes, many questions. So that's nice, we have quite time. So the first question is for conservation and restoration. Do we have any restoration method used for jewelry sketches, as it's the case in painting? I think it was the occasion of a campaign of restoration for you as well, huh?
Yes, there are a few special methods depending if the alterations affect the paper or the gouache or another part of the work. For example, we had to accompany the conservation process of more than 70 drawings for the Parisian exhibitions, and we had to repair tears, cuts to solidify or consolidate the adhesion between the gouache and the paper. So there are some processes which do exist specifically for these kind of works on paper.
So about the white gouache painting and material, on all the drawings presented, we can see white gouache. Does the white always come from with gouache?
Yeah, white gouache is really such an important part of a gouache because it is the color or the absence of color, I don't know, used to suggest light. And of course, with drawings which are supposed to render metal and to render the shine of stones, of pearls, you need to suggest light and you need to suggest volume, and white gouache is so important for that. Some of the drawings do not use white gouache and use, for example, a very clear, a very bright pink or very bright yellow, something very close to white but not exactly white. However, it always is made with mixing white gouache with something different. So it is absolutely essential to these kind of drawings.
And what about the choices of paper, how they were made? We saw clearly that we had different type of papers with different colors, with different uses.
Maybe in the meantime, I can try to answer. Yeah. I don't know if Florian would agree with me, but you will indeed see a few differences in the colors picked for the papers for jewelry designs. Sometimes you will find colored paper, gray, blue, even black papers, because they bring out the white of high jewelry projects. And sometimes you have these translucent paper. In the video you saw, you may have noticed that some translucent paper were almost white, and some of them were this kind of orange, brownish colored. And this is due to the fact that to make them translucent, they were imbued or covered with something like oil to make the paper translucent. And this changes their color a little bit, but the change in color also occurs because of the alteration, the oxidation of the paper, which we mentioned earlier.
So perhaps we can move to the next questions, which are really practical but very interesting. One is about the time needed to create a drawing. How much time do we need to create a drawing, and do technologies today have an impact on this time needed? Two questions in one, actually.
This is a very good question, and to me it depends. Today it really depends on the time you are given as a creator, because you do not pick your own schedule most of the time, and you need to respect the time frame picked by either the artistic direction or maybe the client. And sometimes the client will need a drawing, a design in, let's say, one day, and you will have to make do with this time frame. And sometimes when you do have the time to create your drawing, and I am thinking among other cases, I'm thinking of the fact that nowadays some gouache, most of the gouache actually are made once the jewelry is done, so after the finished project, and you would typically have a bit more time for such gouache, and that could be a 2 weeks project really. So it does take a lot of time if you want to go to this level of fine details. Does that sound right to you?
I guess so. Probably you could try. I think it's also very interesting to try, because we can grasp the difficulty of the practice, and how long does it take to just provide the idea of the light throughout a stone, while you have just a white paper or colored paper, but without any kind of light and no possible transparency. It takes hours just to provide the illusion of transparency, light and stone. So this relation in between drawing and stones, one more question, I think it's also quite interesting. If we have an old design drawing which is not corresponding, or which is not specifying the stones used, how can you identify the stone that were projected or used in reality? And do we always have a link in between the project and the stones chosen?
Florian, do you want to try again, or should I go? Maybe I should.
Florian, do you hear us? So perhaps Clara,
maybe I can try to answer that. Sometimes you do notice there is a difference between the drawing and the actual jewel, and this very irregular grey pearl will be replaced by a Baroque pearl, or this yellow stone depicted in the drawing will end up being, I don't know, maybe an opal or something different. So the drawing is not the exact definition of what will happen, because depending on what you have in the stock, of what you can find on the market, and it can be really difficult to find the stone you envisioned for a specific project, changes will happen. At some point the communication between the draftsman, the chef d'atelier, the different craftsmen which made the jewelry were enough, and they did not need written instruction or drawn instructions, because they were speaking together, working together, and the instructions would be communicated orally, I would say.
Perhaps one or two more, and then time will be over. One is about the changes and the importance of drawing in the patrimonial value. It's a good question, because the Maison didn't have the consciousness, the awareness of what they had in their heritage. It's very recent that the archives are valued, put in evidence. Finally, how can a drawing increase the patrimonial value of jewelry? Does it increase the value of jewelry in a way?
That's a good question, and I feel like it does increase the value of jewelry, because it gives you this depth, this very profound perspective on the creative process of the jewelry. It is not just the jewelry, but also the history of how it came to be. And the fact that the drawings nowadays are way better kept, curated by the Maison, but are also imbued with a legal power and deposited in institutions such as, in France, Institut National de la Propriété Industrielle. And it's also, in a way, a certificate of their authenticity. So it does give these jewels a higher value in terms of context, in terms of legal recognition, in terms of history.
I think it can provide also many information about the relation in between the designer and the Maison, how it works. And it's also interesting for this reason. One last personal question, and I think it could be interesting as well. If you could choose one drawing in your collection, which one would you choose? For what reason?
Oh wow, that's so difficult.
Really?
Yeah, it's a question I was asked a few times, and I never answer with the same drawing. So this is a bit problematic, and I can imagine my answer will be different tomorrow. But I do really enjoy the cutout bracelet drawing, because I feel like this is the epitome of what a drawing can do and can become and can convey in terms of fantasy, of imagining what could be, of an idea becoming something more. This is, to me, a dream drawing. I really like that.
In between representation and reality?
Yeah.
That's it. And what about you, Florian, if we for once can hear you?
The key visual we selected, the peacock drawing, is very dear to me. I think it really shows a very, very finely executed piece, and it's very large. So it really shows the value of the jewelry, and I think with the drawing, it also supports that value. It gives us more reason to understand how the jewel is developed and how the savoir-faire, I think, adds to the process of craftsmanship and the whole development of the object.
If I may, one question from myself. Do you think that hand drawing has a future while it's contemporary from CO, computers drawings? What would be the added value of hand drawing?
I don't know, Florian, what would your thought be on this point, but I had a chat with two jewelry designers a few days ago about this very specific topic, and we were, I don't want to say pessimistic, but with artificial intelligence and so many other tools, we were thinking of the fact that what cannot be replaced with drawing, with hand drawing, is the human action, the human presence, and that gouache and jewelry design also has a future as a performance, as a gesture you share, not kept in the secret of a workshop, but that you display as a gesture to be shared with the audience.
And what do you think, Florian?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, first of all, hand drawing can be still very spontaneous, maybe a little bit less planned than a computer one. With the different colors, what Clara said, I think there's just a great way to connect, for example, in the exhibitions, to convey the technique and to really go step by step to develop the fully blown design.
So thank you both. I don't know, Florian, if you want to add something, because you were clearly not able to answer to some of the questions, but if you want to add something as a conclusion before I conclude the talk.
I want to thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I learned a lot. I learned how similar our exhibitions are, and yet we have different curatorial approaches. And so I wish for everybody here online that you could see both exhibitions to develop a real sense of how these drawings are developed, how they relate to the objects. We have more than a dozen jewelry items in the exhibition, so we also try to juxtapose and explain. And I think both exhibitions do that really, really well. So I wanted to thank you for this opportunity to speak about our shared interests and look at both exhibitions in this really interesting way.
Thank you. Thank you to you both. We were very happy to follow you. And I'd like to add that nothing replaces the real objects. So go to the exhibition, look at them, look at the drawings, look at the jewels. They're absolutely marvelous. And let's meet next week. If I may move to my last slide. Next week we have the Pearl, Queen of Art Deco. It's an important talk because you probably know we are in 2025, which is an important birth date, which is a celebration of the birth of Art Deco in connection to this famous exhibition in Paris in 1925. So we will know a little bit more, and also after the closure time of our exhibition about the pearl, we will celebrate one more time this pearl, which was absolutely the queen of Art Deco. So let's meet next week without any kind of technical issue, I guess. I hope so. And thank you for following us. See you online.